Hey everyone, welcome to License to Spill. I'm your host, Christina Scaglione. Julie is not joining us today, but I do have a guest speaker, Christina Scheinberg, who is a licensed mental health counselor. Thank you for coming to our show today, Christina.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Christina is part of Root and Rise, but she also has her own practice called Collective Counseling. You can find her information in the description box when we're finished recording. I'll put everything about how you can find her and how you can book with her. But she specializes in something called RTM. And just if you want to give a really 1 to 2 sentence about it to help our listeners understand what it is and also spread the word about why RTM is super cool, you can do that now.
Absolutely. RTM stands for the reconsolidation of traumatic memories. Anyone that has a traumatic event that has happened to them and are experiencing any fear, terror, or helplessness around the event or any flashbacks or nightmares, I know it sounds bold, but I can clear them in 3 to 4 sessions. It's a safe guided imagery. I'm not going to re traumatize you. It's very simple. You'll have your eyes closed most of the time, and I'll walk you through all the steps.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to see the work that you've done with our clients, mutual clients, and other people I have sent to you. It's pretty fascinating. I refer to you pretty frequently. I'm so happy you joined the team. I love having you
Me
here.
too.
And also we have a very similar sense of humor, which makes our work really enjoyable. And for anybody who's listening, whether you're, someone who goes to therapy or are a therapist or in the field or not, it doesn't apply. But I think a good sense of humor is appreciated in anyone's field.
And needed. You definitely have to have humor to be in the field.
Absolutely, and needed. So today's episode is meant to ruffle some feathers, but in a lighthearted way, but also in a way to spill the tea about some things that we see as therapists that I think people hold us to a higher standard sometimes. Like we're not allowed to have flaws or be human, but also we're the ones that are. I've had this conversation with clients before where they kind of see us as like a superior to them. Never my favorite approach to things. I might know a thing or two from here and there, but one of the biggest red flags that I feel like I hear about, and today's episode is about all different types of flags, green, red, and beige, and just like what we come across in the field. One of the things that stands out to me is when someone specializes in everything, and we see this constantly online, right, Christina?
Yes, all the time. I mean, it's one thing if you're green and kind of new to the field and feeling your way around like what you want to do, but after a while, you really have to specialize in something and figure it out.
Or, if you have like a favorite interest or whatever and you want to hone in on that, which is kind of how Root and Rise started, right? So we all kind of started in the field the same way. We were kind of embracing everything together, taking it all in, learning about as much as we could. Because you didn't do RTM your entire career, right?
I've been a substance abuse counselor. I've tried family counseling, couples counseling, working with children. I've dipped my toe in just about everything.
Right, right. And then I think your father in law got you into RTM.
He found RTM, knew I was on my path of trauma therapy and had been doing that for a very long time. And that was what I was specializing in. And then when this came out and we were able to get trained, that's it. I knew he guided me and I was like, I'm all in.
And you have the perfect personality for this type of approach too, because it's a little bit more blunt and to the point, and I really appreciate that approach. That's how I practice as well. So we love therapy. We love therapists, and let's be honest though, there are some red flags in our field waving like they're trying to get rescued.
Yeah.
So
When sometimes those red flags pop up, I'm always looking at or trying to figure out rather someone's intent. So,
totally.
right? Why are they doing something? What is it that fuels them? And so as therapists, we would believe that we want to help someone, right? And so I think any therapist is going to sit there and say, "Yeah, I want to help someone through whatever it is that they need to be helped with." But then you have to examine, oh, as a therapist, for me at least, right? How do I feel during a session and what am I doing in a session? What my intent is to empower my client. Whereas sometimes when I'm talking with other therapists, I see that perhaps they're almost being fueled by praise or by
Mm,
ego
right.
or it's kind of similar to what an addict would do. Like they need to go back in and get that dopamine hit of, thank you so much. You're incredible. If it wasn't for you. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know what I
Insert
would do.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, in one hand, like, it is nice to hear that sometimes, but usually when my clients say stuff like that to me, I remind them, "This was a collaborative experience. You had a lot to do with your results. You
Right.
had a lot to do with your results. You don't thank me for everything that has happened in your life. You are the one that's doing the work." I always say, "I am the spotter in the gym that's trying to help you lift all the weights. I do not want all the credit." I certainly feel uncomfortable receiving all the credit because it's just inaccurate. But there are definitely red flags that I notice in other therapists, and ones that I think clients can clock,
Mhm.
and I feel that by the time I get to some of my clients who they've been to therapy and therapists before they sit with me, some of the things they tell me that they have experienced with other therapists make me cringe.
Absolutely.
But what's, like, one of the worst things you've ever been told that someone has experienced with a therapist?
I had a therapist say that she is doing the work of God.
Shut up!
Yeah. And I went, "Oh,
That is so much worse than what I thought you were gonna say. My god.
you're doing God's work," what was her exact words.
Okay. I'm doing God's work is a little different than
I'm doing the work of God?
I guess it sounds different,
I don't know.
It
To me, it
sounds
sounds
different.
the same. I never do I mention God in any of the
Yeah, that's true, that's true. But there are you can be a therapist that specializes in faith, like, there are such things.
Yes. No, no, no. No, nor even around that. This person was not specializing in faith, not spiritual, just doing the work of God,
I
Christina.
got it, I got it, I got it. Yeah, so if someone says, "I don't need therapy, I'm the therapist."
Well, I can't. I can't. This is all the time. All the time. You're right. I don't need I've done it before. I'm good. I know all of my triggers. I have it. How is that possible? Right? Life ebbs and flows. It's not like you just stay
I
stagnant.
became a therapist because of my therapist.
That's incredible. See, but
She
that's the therapist that saw that you had something within you that you could hold space for other people and said, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
we both do the same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been in and out of therapy all of my life, so that just blows my mind when someone says stuff like that. That's like saying that's like going to a dentist who says they never brush their teeth.
Yeah. I don't need to. I'm a dentist. I know exactly what's going on in here. There's nothing I need to do. I'm all good. No, same.
Yeah.
I've been in therapy throughout my entire life, starting as a teenager all the way up until present day. And how would it be or seem if I was doing the work that I do and didn't sit on the other side of the couch or chair, if you will?
Oh yeah, you mean self-awareness doesn't come free with your license?
Right. And then also just admittance of, like you said earlier, we're all human. And so
Yeah.
how I need assistance from other people. We're all flawed. We all have our backpack of shit. I'm carrying it around.
Yeah. Yeah. So I cringe anytime there's a movie or a show with a therapist in it. I cringe immediately because they're always so inaccurate about how therapy goes or how therapy should go,
Mhm.
especially when the therapists have relationships with their clients. There's so many shows that depict that, and
True.
I'm like, "I have to turn this off. I can't watch it. It's too hard for me to watch."
It is. It is. I'm trying to think if there is a show. It might
Although
not
I do know somebody who did that.
who became friends with their client.
No, 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 who slept with their client.
God.
Yeah, like, I'm saying, like, full on inappropriate. I worked someplace where I was put in this really weird situation. I knew the therapist was married. I knew she had a relationship of a long time and had a child with that person. Not to get into too many details in case she hears this, but she came over to my house one time with a different person, even though I knew she had a husband. So she came over with someone who was not her husband. And I wasn't aware of what was happening, so I was waiting for her to kind of, like, guide me into what I'm watching.
Yeah.
And so she just introduced them as a friend, and I texted a friend of ours, and I said, "Are you aware that so and so has someone else in their life that's not their husband?" And then my friend texted me saying, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "They're at my house with someone else who's not their husband right now." And my friend was like, "That's crazy." And then I also knew that this person was the father of a client where we worked.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know what I'm watching. What is happening right now?" What ended up happening was they had a history with this person from high school. They got reconnected because they came in as a client. their child was being seen by someone else, and then she started up a relationship with this person while she was still married.
I don't understand. I mean, first of all, highly inappropriate, self-awareness lacking, and also knowing when to tap out, right? So this can like go into so many different tree branches. Like as a therapist,
Also, like, why loop me into this?
why because you're a therapist and you can understand. No. There's knowing when to tap out and to say, "Oh no, I'm having feelings for someone," or "I'm not able to help this person," or "This feels inappropriate in some kind of way," and doing something.
Yeah. Then there's also yeah, you're 100% right. One of the other things that I've heard many, 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 many times from clients, and I think we can each share our own experience on self-disclosure, but basically what I'm told often is I'll say, "Why did you leave your last therapist?" And the client will say, "My therapist talked too much about herself. It was her session more so than it was my session."
Yes, I hear that a lot, and I hear that it became more of a friendship, and it didn't
That I
feel.
can see. That I can see happening, and then that's when you have to terminate.
That's when you terminate, where you're not offering anything else. One of the things, and that's why you have to examine when it's time to tap out, right? When it's like, I'm not helping you anymore, or I'm not even connecting with you from the get go. We have to end this. This conversation I revisit quite often. I check in with my clients. How is it going? Even after 6 months, how is it going? First month, all the time. Are we actually working towards a goal? What are we doing here? Why
Yeah.
are we even meeting anymore?
Why are we seeing each other?
Why? Yeah, you're great. Things seem good. Bye.
Yeah. Well, there's, like, chronic I think in our field, and I see this professionally too, like, from professional to professional, I see this chronic boundary blur.
Yeah. Well, if you are disclosing as a therapist to your clients and your client is even noticing that you're disclosing information about yourself, shouldn't you then check out and see if you should go to therapy or maybe use someone else that's a professional to disclose to? Like, why are you doing that? Back to
Yeah.
intent. Why are
Yeah.
you doing that?
I would say some in my experience with my self-disclosure, it is to help the client. It's always formed in a way of, like, helping them, see that they can get through something like this as well because this was my experience, and I think from that experience, I can help guide you. Of course, if you disagree, give me your input, but I was taught that self-disclosure, if it's not going to assist the client, it really shouldn't be there, you
Yes.
know? Unless it's, like, accidental, like they know you in a way.
Right. Or like they saw me on the street or something. Uh, grocery store, wherever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
happened before. And then you kind of make sure that if they're approaching you, that it's their decision to approach you, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, they have to violate their own HIPAA, I cannot.
Yes, yes, they do. And, we hear this quite often of self disclosure. And when someone asks you a simple question like, "How old are you?" you can answer the question. A lot of therapists are scared and they don't want to answer anything. And what's the harm? And then you can explore with them. Why did they
Yeah.
want to know? Do they think that you can't help them
Yeah.
because you seem young or old or whatever the case?
Maybe. Maybe
Maybe.
all of the above. I was always taught to say, like, "How would me answering that for you assist you in your therapy?"
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like now I'm just like, I'm 41. Why? Why do you wanna know?
I'm old.
Yeah, why do you care? Do I look
Yeah.
good?
Yeah. Yes, I saw your photos recently from Jackie. Jackie, our photographer, I always mispronounce her last name, I'm gonna say McKaylee.
It's me.
I think she did a wonderful job on your photos.
She's
Yeah, you do look
fantastic.
great. You look great.
Thank you, and thank you for sending her my way. She's fantastic.
She's
Absolutely
awesome.
fantastic. Um,
So,
I disclose information as I see fit, explore with the client why it is, always come back to intention. Why are
yes.
you asking me this? Why am I answering this way? There are some times where I'm in session and I do wanna disclose more.
Yeah, same.
And I'm thinking through, is this gonna be helpful or do I wanna just talk about this? Like, what's this about?
Totally. Yeah.
All
You're
the time.
so good at checking yourself too. Like you are excellent at reframing before you speak. So you're welcome. So I'll list off a couple things that make me cringe when I meet another therapist. They've never had supervision or they don't participate in consultation of any kind. There's no curiosity. They think they are the authority in the room, but they don't have a specialization. They hang out with their clients.
I don't get that one, but okay.
I don't get that one either, but I've known people to do it. I've known people to do it, and it's like there's just so many problems with that. You can no longer be an unbiased space for that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that continual supervision, no matter how long you've been in the field, is absolutely needed. There's so many different perspectives. You need to
What
check.
about the, "I've been doing this for 20 years, I don't need supervision."
Even the more reason you need supervision because you've been doing it for 20 years without supervision or for however long, and you're set in your ways and you're not recognizing something perhaps.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Also, too, I find that those types of therapists, not to generalize at all, but to kind of
let's
piggyback,
generalize.
well, is that they have a hard time admitting to faults or doing something wrong, or even saying, I'm sorry, whether it's to another therapist or in
Mm.
session. Do you know times that I have perhaps said, and I've maybe prefaced it with, correct me if I'm wrong?
Girl, I say that all the time.
Therapy when I'm talking to clients because I'm trying to take what they're telling me and interpret it in an unbiased way and kind of help them out. And there are times where I can piss off a client. Like, no, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
That's not what I meant. And I say, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
This is how I was
Yeah,
interpreting it. I totally see what you're saying now.
absolutely.
That's great. Like it's good grist for the mill. It's a great kind of back and forth where you can
Good grist for the mill.
work with that session and I'm sorry. I'm admitting to that was my fault. Here's how
Yeah,
I came to that conclusion. I'm so sorry. And
absolutely.
I feel like individuals like you're describing will not do that.
No, they won't, and, I've had therapists like that before, and they've been awful, awful experiences for me, and I notice I will speak with some level of authority in my sessions. What I also pair it with is, prove me wrong if you have another opinion. I want to hear it. If I'm incorrect, tell me. And also, I hope I'm wrong because of what I'm picking up on is so toxic. I hope I'm incorrect. So like give me more information so that I can be incorrect. And I tell all my clients I love a challenge. Like just tell
Yeah.
me.
Well, you're challenging them too, and that's part of therapy, right? So when you go to that therapist where you're friendly with them or that you become friends, they're not challenging you any longer. They're just agreeing with everything you're saying. And so if you're challenging your client, what you're doing, and I say this to my clients all the time, you're helping them to be uncomfortable. And change doesn't come from being comfortable. And
Yeah.
they
But
need that.
once you're friends, you're no longer helpful.
No.
You're no longer helpful,
Right. Unless
you
you're a
know?
really good friend, and then you can keep pushing your friend to make better decisions and you can,
Well, that's a little different. That's
yeah,
like I have friends. I have really good friends. I'm not their therapists, but they do call me from time to time to get consult and I'll say like, "Do you want me to answer this as a therapist or as your friend?"
yeah,
Because I know a lot more than any therapist would know. So, how do you want me to answer this? Because it's blunt no matter which way it comes out, but it depends on how deeply I'm going to impact with that crater that I need to know. I need to know what you want to know.
I like the challenge. It's good to kind of push and to feel uncomfortable during a session and then kind of talk about it. And that's also what I love about RTM too, is that it is more direct and blunt and sometimes cut the person off. I adjust. That's why I love it so much. And I think it's so effective. But then bringing it back to it's actually not all me. I'm part of what's helping, but it's the protocol and it's the client. They're
Mhm.
empowering themselves. They know
Yep.
that they can make the change. They want to make the change. So let's stay on that track. You don't need me after
Yeah.
a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. And also long-term therapy is an investment, so it might take a little bit of time for somebody to, really work through some of the things that they have there and they can pair RTM into the mix with that and then go back to their regular therapist, which is what you and I do with each other. I'll send somebody to you that I can't help shift out of something. You'll bang it out in like 2 to 3 sessions, they come back to me and we're processing something else,
Right.
which is super helpful.
Right.
So this next segment, this next like thing I'm going to say could be in a whole episode on its own. So we might have to do a follow-up, but and it's something that you and I have come across a few times in recent months as part of our larger collective. So ego therapy. So therapy is not a TED Talk. And I feel like there are some people in our field, therapists and or coaches who need to be the smartest ones in the room and that type of mentality and approach, I feel like the client always loses in a situation like that.
Mhm. 100%.
Clients don't need to be impressed.
No, they don't. And in life, right? How great is it when someone asks questions or admits to not knowing something or explores and grows with you rather than it feels like you're helping the person to grow and you're the reason that person's growing. Then they become dependent. And that's
I
the
don't want that.
of what you want. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want that. I have a client who has come to me over the years, on and off, with things that, and it's always, not always, but it's usually something I don't really know a lot about. And it has pushed me to further my career into different certifications and other education. But oftentimes with her, I say, okay, I think this is one of those things that we've come to like an impasse where I don't know if I can help you. Let's embark on the research together and see what we can find. And she's been in and out because she has gone to other specialists for different things here and there over the last however many years. And because I'm able to say that to her, because I'm able to tell her I'm not well versed in that, I don't know enough about it, I feel like she respects us more as a practice because I'm not gonna try to sell her on something. What did you say the other day? "I'm the healthiest person, come buy my scrubs." What did you say that made me laugh? You said that you were getting the ick from someone who's posing in the community as a healthy individual, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not a doctor, but come buy my scrubs."
Yes, something like that.
And when I say scrubs, I mean body scrubs, guys. Body scrubs.
Right. Yeah, it does give me the ick. And if you feel like you're healing because you know everything about everything, it's just impossible. It's impossible. And what are we selling here? I mean,
False hope and, empty dreams.
yes, yes,
Yeah, and it's a person that, like, I mean, like I said, it could be, it's a snake in the grass type of situation. There's other people that we've come across in our, I'll say they're not really in our network, but they're, like, on the fringe of it, that are in our field and, definitely come in with authority, and the way they frame things, no matter how seasoned you are in the field, they know best. So, for an example, like, somebody in your life has been a therapist for maybe more time than you've been alive, and is having a correspondence with this person, is being told what to do as best practice, and that person in your life is like, "That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. And why would I change best practice when you're, like, half my age
yeah,
with half the experience?"
100%. 100%. I feel like it happens all too often. And actually, more now than I think I've ever seen before because we're constantly trying to sell shit. And that could be, uh, a fragrance, a scrub, a lotion, a pill, and this is gonna help you
Or
feel
an experience.
or an experience or something. There are definitely I feel like what I love about Root and Rise and the collective is that there are so many different people that come from different backgrounds, but as we are trained as mental health practitioners, right? Social workers, mental health counselors, there are evidence based practices that work. And we specialize in some of them and we know that, well, no, this has been proven to work. I don't know what the hell this other person's doing over here.
Right.
You can try it by all means,
Yeah.
but no, we're going to guide you with what we know works. And I'm going to keep checking myself to know that I'm doing this in a way that's going to be most helpful.
Yeah, because clients need to feel safe. Like I said earlier, they don't need to be impressed, but I feel like there's certain individuals that we've come across recently and have laughed about in our private offices together. Clients are not going to care if you have a million degrees on the wall. What they're going to care about is how you help them. Give them practical tools to help them.
Right. Right. It's the glitz and the glam, look over here. It's all sparkly.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this next thing I'm going to say is going to piss off some people, but the therapists that always come back to at the end of every session, well, this is all from your inner child.
I also laugh because I myself, I'm like, oh, I think that's from my childhood, probably.
It might be. It might. No, that's totally different than it being your inner child. Yeah.
Yes. Talking to right. It's such a double-edged sword though, right? Because there can be a lot of truth in that, and there can be a lot of like muck in it
Yeah, but
too.
nuance matters.
Yeah.
Nuance matters for that exact reason. Nuance matters. Like, it's not always your attachment issue. It's not always your attachment style. It's not always your inner child. Like, could that all be intermingled? Sure. But like the therapists that die on that hill,
They do. A
oh
lot of
my God, they
a
do.
lot.
They really, really do. Everything is trauma or nothing is. There's no in between.
Right.
There's no, and I've been stuck on some podcasts. Thanks, Dana. Dana is a publicist and a friend, a really good friend of Christina's, who's assisted me with some of my podcast interviews. She got me on a podcast that was like supposedly really, really hard to get on and was like a coveted spot. I hated the entire interview because it was all about trauma work and trauma, and I was going on to try to talk about limitless and all the things that we're doing here, and the whole thing was about trauma and I held my own for the 45 minutes that I was on it, and I got off the call and I was like, "Dana!" I was like, "This woman believes every single thing that we eat, breathe, and sleep is trauma." I was like, "This was a horrible interview." She's like, "Well, you did great." She's like, "You did awesome." I was like, "It
Yeah.
was awful."
I think sometimes, and I don't know this person from a hole in the wall, I'm just gonna take a guess that perhaps that was her experience. And so what we tend to
She
do
built an
is,
entire practice on it.
and that's great, but, we tend to generalize our own experiences and think that, "Oh, well, since I went through this, this must be what you're going through, and this must, you gotta keep your shit over here." And
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, what are some things that maybe clients notice as red flags but don't always name them?
Think that when they don't have room to speak, that's something else I've heard from clients where the therapist is talking too much in the session, um, and they feel like they can't tell their story.
Mhm.
And oh, when a client says, "No, what I meant was," or "No, this is how I'm feeling," and then the therapist being like, I don't think so," and correcting and saying, "I think it really does come from this." And so, like, and I'm thinking just in life in general, no, no means no. As a therapist, if another therapist came up to me and I was like, "No, that's not my experience. I'm sorry that you feel that way." Same thing in sessions too. Yeah, correcting the client.
Yeah, well, so I will correct a client if I feel like what they said wasn't authentic.
Mhm.
So I'll say like, is that really what we think? Is that really where you think it came from? Or like, could it also be something else?
Sure.
Or like,
You can offer them something
I'll
else.
make a face. I'll do something very like comical and be like, I'm not sure that's true, and so it's a gentle correction to really reflect instead of generalize. But yeah, I agree. So basically, invalidating therapists are a red flag.
Yeah, like, I and also telling your client to do something, and again, like I had said earlier, it's great to push a client and to have them experience that uncomfortable feeling, but then when you continue to do it and they're so wildly uncomfortable, like, I had a client one time tell me that a past therapist kept trying to do exposure therapy
Oh
on
God.
for, um for this relationship she was in, and it was just wildly uncomfortable. We came to the point where she had to have her notebook out and write everything down in the moment. She's like, "Okay, I'm trying to do this," and try it caused her so much anxiety. At that point, don't you take a look and say, "Well, I don't think this is working, and maybe this isn't the path that we should be going down?"
Oh my God.
She pushed, and she really just listened to her therapist, everything that he told her to do, and just caused
I
to go in a
can't,
spiral.
and that's the stuff that drives me nuts. Like, I have a really good friend of mine who lives in Jersey, and her partner, they were having problems for a while, and they decided to go to, they decided to go to individual counseling first, and then couples counseling later. And this is where it gets a little hairy because the individual counselor for the partner was not certified in EMDR and started doing EMDR and triggered the out of my, friend's partner and left her wounded and raw and so dysregulated that she was non-functioning in the relationship moving forward, and they ended up separating permanently because it was such a terribly handled therapy,
Yeah.
and
See,
that drives me nuts.
that's so preventable.
Yes, but people, again, they have the superiority of like, I did this 3-hour course on Sunday, wait till I start this surgery on you now."
Right. That
Could
again,
you imagine?
back to supervision. If you're not bouncing what you're doing off of other people and explaining, client details and in a safe space and with other clinicians, how could you possibly reflect on your work?
Mhm, mhm. Exactly. So I think 2 things that we might not have mentioned yet that I think, clients will see and maybe not be able to name is, 1, clients can feel when you're checked out.
Yes.
I've even had clients tell me their therapist has fallen asleep on them.
Yes, I've heard that too. Yes. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine? I don't
No.
either. You have to take care of yourself as a human being, as a therapist, as whatever. If you're falling asleep, like, hello, maybe you
Oh
should go
my god.
home.
Yeah, maybe. And then the other thing I think is they can also tell when you're emotionally hijacked. To your point, you have to be grounded to be able to hold space.
Yeah,
The one size fits all type of therapist, absolutely not, go home. I can't stand you.
right. And figuring out your caseload too, right? So yes, we want to make sure that we're helping many people, making some money along the way, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a limit and I have to stick to my limit of how many people I see in a week, in a month, et cetera, on the weekends, in the evenings. And then I just have to put a boundary down and say, no, I can't,
Yeah.
because otherwise I won't be present. I'll be angry if
Mhm,
I'm in a
mhm.
session and
Yeah.
I have nothing else to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's on us to know. That's on us to know. Not we shouldn't be discovering that in the middle of a session.
Right. Exactly.
Shit, by the way, I shouldn't have taken you in today. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's
So
terrible,
angry at
terrible
you right
practice.
now. I'm made. Jesus.
I'm enraged. Why are we here? Yeah,
I'll
so
with my eyes closed. Just keep going.
I'm just resting my eyes. I'm not sleeping. Oh
Seriously.
my god, so horrible. So, okay, so the one size fits all therapist, bad news. No direction, no goals, just vibes. Please, I can't. Right. So therapists that get defensive, or correct the client.
Yes. Yes. And even therapists that get defensive, like with clients, absolutely. That's ridiculous to me. And then also with other therapists too. Just because you're doing something your way and you're running your practice your way or you're handling whatever doesn't mean I'm going to do it that way.
Oh my god, I have a horror story for you. I was very, very early in my career. I worked at a nonprofit. I worked in this department called the pros department, and we were basically glorified case managers to try to like help people get services in the community. And there was a psychologist and there was like I don't even actually know if he was a licensed clinical social worker at the time. I don't know exactly what his title was, but he was basically the psychologist's little lapdog. So he was taking the overflow that the psychologist didn't have time for in the nonprofit setting. One day, I heard through the walls this person who's being a therapist. He's now a therapist in private practice, which makes me cringe. So at the time, now I'm going back 17 years, he was screaming at the client so loud and cursing at him so loud to get out of his office because he, the therapist, knew better, and this person was a stupid blah 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 beep 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 all these things, and he threw stuff off of his desk to get the person out of his office, and that is how he conducted himself throughout the rest of the year at this particular nonprofit. And I just remember thinking to myself, how is this allowed? How is this allowed?
I know. This reminds me of two different scenarios. I worked for an organization that was mainly substance abuse, and this would happen quite often. That if you don't do it my way, you're not going to get sober. And if you don't get sober, you're going to ruin the rest of your life. And these are all the consequences, and yada, yada, yada. And it has to
How
be,
harmful.
yeah, screaming, yelling, even screaming at the therapist. I mean, that was quite the experience. And then it's reminding me of another organization I worked for where there was a woman who had developed these delusions later on in life, and she became very paranoid and clearly needed medication. So I had to collaborate with a psychiatrist. And I said, I've really worked hard to build this relationship with this client, and I'd like to be part of that first session to just kind of help her along. She really doesn't trust anyone. It took me all that I could give to get her to come to see you in order to get her on medication, which is what she really needs. And she agreed. She would really prefer me to be in the room, prefer to be in the room. No, I was not allowed to be in the room because that psychiatrist thought that she knew better. And I just remember saying, well, that's your choice and that's on you. And you can absolutely have me in the room, but that's an hour trip.
Oh my god, yeah, that's rough. I wish that I feel like every field probably has people like this, but I think our field in particular, in a setting like we hold, and the stories that we hold, and the trauma that we help process, it's even extra harmful when people are operating with such authority and can re-traumatize. I've had some really terrible therapists, so I hated therapists for a good amount of my life because of how many bad experiences I've had. And I used to be like, I'm never becoming a therapist. And then later in life, when my really awesome therapist was like, you would be really good at this, you should consider it. I just remember thinking I grew up having a very specific understanding of the work that therapists did, and I never had a good experience with it. So in my early 20s to then be told I should be doing this, I thought was laughable.
I think that therapist was spot on. Absolutely should be doing this.
Well, I didn't realize that there was ethics. That's how fucked up it was. I didn't realize that there were ethics.
Well,
I didn't
it's
realize.
reminding me actually of my first experience in therapy. I was 14 and I walked into the room and there was a large dog. I could not tell you what kind of dog, but a very large dog. And I'm not really a dog person. And I walked in very uncomfortable, and this dog was all up in me, in like everywhere. And only then, in that moment, did the therapist say, "Do you mind if the dog stays?" I'm a very
What are
polite
you supposed to say?
supposed to say. I'm 14. And I'm like, okay. Maybe I was even 13. I don't know. And then I remember her asking me some questions, and they were like bullshit. I don't know where she was coming up with them. One of them was, what's your biggest fear? And honestly, at that point, I was so checked out.
You're
So,
like, your dog?
well, I was like dying. Like, what could I say to like get this therapist? I don't know, do something. I want to get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Just poor choices.
Yeah. My mom tried to make me go to therapy once when I was a teenager. She didn't tell me that's where we were going. She said we were going out to lunch first, and then, she she drove me to the therapist's office, and I was so pissed, and she made me sit in this man's office, and I didn't speak the entire hour. I was like, "I'm not speaking to you," and I just sat there and I stared at him. He asked me questions. He didn't know that my mom did that, and he actually said, like, that ruined my ability to make a connection with your daughter because you lied to her. You
Yes.
brought her here under false pretenses. And so when parents try to do that now,
Red
that's
flag.
the first thing I reference. I said, "Don't do that. I don't want to sit in silence with your child for an hour. You have
Right.
to be transparent and tell your kid."
Yeah.
And my mom did a lot of things without being transparent. So that's why I think I raised my kids so transparently, because I was like, that did not feel good, and I remember what that was like. I thought we were going to Burger King. I ended up here.
Did you end up at all at Burger King at all during the day? Of
Yeah, afterwards, but I was pissed at that point.
course. Big
It
red flag.
wasn't worth it,
No.
and I never had Burger King again.
Every time
Mama,
you're triggered.
mama, drama. Yeah, so, do you ever walk into a therapist's office and see, like, 47 card decks?
I have not been to the therapist's office. Like, it should there's just simplicity, man. You need a couch, maybe a plant, some
How does that
tissues.
make you feel?
Well,
How
god
does
damn
that
it.
make you feel?
You need
I
to
don't say that very often, but when I do say it, it's meaningful. How does that make you feel?
it angers me. I mean, there has
Every 12 seconds, every 12 seconds. It angers me. I hate your dog.
shit, there's just a lot of anger in there. It's
Oh my god. It's so funny. So the therapist who nods aggressively at every, word that you say, so then you have whiplash?
it's true.
The one that says, like, they're judging a charcuterie board?
Do you write as you're speaking to your clients, or do you just sit there?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Usually only in the intake, or if the timeline is so spicy that I really need to, like, write it down, because sometimes I really like a good pot of tea and I'm like, "Hold on, let me get my pen," so I can figure out, like, the relationship map. I'll do that so I can understand it. I've had a couple of newbies recently that I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry. I didn't sit down with a piece of paper, but now I have to get up and get one."
'Cause you need to remember some things, right? Jog your memory and stuff. Yes. Speaking of, I don't work with, teenagers anymore. I used to work with some adolescents, and the things that they would say, and then I realized, "Oh, I just don't understand the slang. I am actually learning here," and then I'll stop and say,
Yes.
"What does that
Yes.
mean? Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Now I understand what everyone else is talking about."
You know, it would piss my kids off all the time when I would come home and know their slang.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Why do you even know that?" And I'm like, "'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
you're not the only teens I know."
Right, right. And this kind of circles back when I'm thinking of teenagers in session, where you clearly realize that, it may be helpful for them to be talking to you, but you clearly realize that it's the parents that need the therapy.
Oh my god, that's why I stopped working with kids.
Right. At the red flag, it's I think that's where I've seen it so much in therapy with clients, is being like, "Where's your mom? Can she come in here for a second? And could you leave for a minute? I just
Yeah,
need
could you go to the car? Because this is gonna get loud.
I'm about to." Yeah.
Yeah, because usually I know the parents are gonna get loud with me because I'm gonna be like, where do you think they learned that?" I do, family reintegration. I don't know if you knew this, but I do family reintegration therapy that's court mandated. Did you know that?
No, I don't think.
So so I do that, and that's, like, super intense, and it's usually after, either a divorce or domestic violence, and whoever's the alienated parent gets to have the reunification with the kids, and, like, some really dicey sessions, because it's just so hard to get kids to trust after a situation like that. But when I used to work with children and adolescents, and in some special circumstances, if it's an LGBTQ situation, I will work with an adolescent, but that's not how I advertise. So the people that know how to find me, they find me. It's like the Underground Railroad. So whenever I would sit with the kid, I'm like, I can't, I don't, I get the complaints from the parents, and often I'm like, I'm not here to raise your kid. Like, you need to come to therapy or go to a colleague of mine and get your shit figured out, because this is like, you're just dumping it out onto the kid. This
Yes.
kid's not doing anything wrong but trying to survive your environment.
No, oh gosh, this is reminding me of a huge red flag from a mom once that I worked with. I was working with the daughter, and she disclosed suicidal ideation, and I said,
The
"Okay."
daughter or the mom?
The daughter, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have mom come in. We're gonna talk about this, the next steps, and there's this program and this inpatient and et
Yeah,
cetera." And mom said, "I shit you not. You knew we were going away this weekend."
I can totally believe it though.
I mean,
I
it's
can
just
totally believe it.
the red flag like flew over my head, covered me. I sunk under my desk. I was like,
I
"You're."
totally get it. I totally get it. And so, like, yeah, it's like red flag by proxy, right? It's not a client red flag.
Yeah.
It's like it's a client's a guardian. You know what I mean?
And she like turned to the girl. I'm like, "I get it now. I got it. You're free to go. She needs to stay right here."
I get it now. Yeah, exactly. Some client, I really don't have a ton of client red flags. Some funny ones that I can share in this segment, which we talked about really quickly before we hopped on. My favorite one lately is the ChatGPT is my therapist. That's my favorite one, and I often like to highlight ChatGPT is awesome. I use it every day, I'm not gonna lie, but it's a tool. It's a tool, and the funny part about it is if you like it that much, then we should talk about your ego because it's literally reflecting back all of the shit you say to it. It's an algorithm that mirrors you, so please tell me more on that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're happy using it for therapy, use it for everything else in your life then. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Any, client ones that you can share? Funny ones?
Regarding ChatGPT or
No,
just.
no, just any, just any. We've got the brain fart. Are you having a mom moment? Okay, it's so like Google PhD.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, true, true. Clients knowing everything and having it all figured out. I have to say, I guess maybe I've just been lucky in that sense that many of my clients are super open to, it'd probably be earlier on in my career that it's maybe clients that didn't decide or choose to come to therapy were mandated to come.
Oh
That's
yeah, I worked with that clientele for a while too.
that's where maybe I come up with some of that stuff. But more recently, in the past decade, it's been people very open and willing and wanting to change. And
Yeah, they're willing and wanting, but they come in as the expert.
you know what? Yes, I'm thinking now, and I think maybe, and this is
We
on.
just had one recently.
We got to talk about this in supervision then, because I'm thinking to myself that maybe this is a me thing where I'm like, I think I just terminated with the person. I was just like, you know what? I don't know that I'm able to help you. Meanwhile, I don't. Maybe it's me. I can't help you because I didn't
It's me. I'm the problem.
know to do with that. You
Yeah, yeah.
let know it
Yeah.
all
Why didn't you bring it up in supervision last month?
dawned on me.
Oh my god, baby brain again. Yeah, so I had a client come in with a plastic file bin, like those storage bins of everything that she thought she knew about herself
Oh wow.
to prove her case to me that she was whatever she thought she was.
Had she just worked on this because of a conversation you had, or is this like
No, she
years
came
of
intake. This
information?
was her intake. She came into my office for the first session with a box of her trauma, literally in a box. But it wasn't really accurate. It was just stuff that she thought. So like every trend that's ever been on any Insta or anything, she printed it out and found a way to prove that she was part of that. So she had every attachment disorder. She had every whether it was either she experienced it or she had it, every single thing that I've ever read online was in that box.
Gosh.
Yeah,
I
that was
mean,
fun.
think of the time and effort.
And that was only one. She told me she had more stuff like that where people
No,
come in
no,
and they say
there's
like,
compassion that just came out of me, where I'm like, I feel for this person. Like
yeah,
that. Oh my.
yes, I felt for her too, but also I hate the internet for that.
Yeah, I do. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I just felt bad that she thought she had everything. By the time we were done working together, she realized that she was just spending too much time online and that she was just dysregulated because of other reasons. She didn't have any of those things.
Yeah. You know what I've done off this is reminding me that if someone does come to me with internet stuff and I think I have this or my mom has this or my blah
And
blah,
you say, I don't think I can help you. You have to leave.
I I only want people that can listen. I take out the DSM-5 sometimes. I'm like, okay, what is it that you're talking about right now? I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna just read from this book, not from the internet. What it is that I think you're talking about,
Because
and
half the stuff that's out there that says it's a diagnosis is not.
Right. I know. I know.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother segment. I think we can do a whole nother segment on that.
Yeah.
So basically to sum up today, we're not saying therapists are bad. We're saying that they're human, but we're also saying accountability matters. And I would say good therapy requires self-reflection, humility, and repair. Anything else? Anything you want to add?
Just always check on a person's intent. Why are they doing
Absolutely.
something? I feel like I do that
Absolutely.
constantly.
And
Why?
clients are allowed to trust their gut.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
So if you're a therapist listening, take this as an invitation. It's not an attack. If you're a client and you're thinking, wait, that's my therapist, you're not crazy. You're fine. Like, honestly, I don't, I don't, I don't think any of my clients are crazy at all, actually. So if you're listening, I don't think that about you.
Love all
And
my
if you want, write in and tell us about your red flag experiences, things that you guys have been through either as a therapist with another therapist or as a client with another therapist or, anonymously, of course, you can write in respectfully. And we're not, I have to say this at every episode, we are not your therapists. So please do not take anything that we said today and implement it into your life.
and if you are our clients, then we'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Licensed, ethical, and slightly unhinged. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you.